Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with Ask D.C Network number 15. Our first question today comes from Pyrotechnic, who asks, how do you feel about Cartoon Network's current state? I don't feel that great about their current state, and it's so weird to talk about this because I really feel like the last 2 to 3 years has been a whirlwind when it comes to Cartoon Network. Like, if we go back to February of 2021, Tom Asheen was within his, I believe, first 6 months of being president of Cartoon Network. We had this huge upfront about all these new shows that were coming to the channel. If you go back to February 2021, I made a video after that upfront saying the future for Cartoon Network is bright. I truly believed that. Then all of a sudden we look at Cartoon Network today, 2 years have passed. Not one of those series that were announced at that upfront, none of them had premiered. A whole merger happened. People were fired. Michael Oling is now the president of Cartoon Network. Tom Asheen is gone. And we have shows like Batman Cape Crusader, My Adventures with Superman, Unicorn Wars Eternal. All 3 series were meant to be on Cartoon Network. And in all honesty, I felt like those 3 series were going to really help push Cartoon Network into the next era of animation, the next era of the channel. They're all being moved off the channel. So in all honesty, I don't feel great about Cartoon Network's current state. I really don't. I feel like at this point, I know Michael Oling has said that, hey, we got our footing, the merger's over, that transition period is over, now we're really starting to pay for the next era of Cartoon Network. And while I want to believe him, I need to see that. I need to see that you guys are actually putting your foot forward to show us what this next era of Cartoon Network is. I can't keep hearing that all these shows are coming and then none of them come. I need to see in an upfront or something what you're working on. Show us clips, show us previews of stuff. I know that Warner Brothers Discovery, it's either on May 14th or 16th, somewhere around there. They're having an upfront for the new content they're working on, and I really hope and I think Cartoon Network needs to be a part of that. I know last year they had this big Warner Brothers Discovery upfront that was really being hyped up, like celebrities made an appearance, like Shaquille O'Neal. I know Pedro Martinez was there. Cartoon Network wasn't there. They weren't even mentioned. So I really feel like this year we need to see Cartoon Network at least either at that upfront or have their own upfront to show us what's next. And we need stuff to start coming out because we can't keep having these shows move off of Cartoon Network to other networks. Austin McNeil asks, do you think we'll ever get a new Ben 10 series like the original or Alien Force? A show that's still funny and heartfelt but a bit more mature at the same time. And short answer is yes. I do think we're going to get another series like that, and I truly believe that whatever this 6th iteration of Ben 10 ends up being, I think that it's going to be what you're describing here. I really think that they're going back to the drawing board with Ben 10. I think that they're going to make a series that's more serious, more action oriented with darker tones to it, that's more akin to the original series, Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, and even Omniverse. Whether that's a new 5th series in the original continuity or it's a brand new reboot timeline or something new entirely, I don't know. I'd love to see them return to the original continuity, but at this point, who knows? Because we have to remember, this 6th series was supposed to be announced back in December of 2021. We're now in April of 2023 and we have no word on where this 6th iteration is. So I feel like whatever they were working on has either been canceled completely or it's being reworked into something else. I do think they're working on something. It's just a matter of what that something is. Is it them returning to the original continuity? Is it a brand new continuity in and of itself? Either way though, I do think that they're going to make a more mature Ben 10. And my question for you guys is this a series that's going to also move to Adult Swim? We saw that Unicorn Wars Eternal and My Adventures with Superman, they're looking like they're going to be more mature series with some action elements in them. They both moved to Adult Swim, so does that mean that whatever this 6th iteration of Ben 10 is also going to move to Adult Swim? It seems to me at least they're creating like a teenage block or an action block on Adult Swim. That's something to definitely keep an eye on. True asks, do you think Infinity Train will come back? And so this is an interesting question because in the past I have said yes, and I think it's more interesting to look at this now because a lot's happened since Infinity Train was canceled. We had a whole merger happen, right? And Infinity Train was canceled by Tom Asheen's regime. I'm not saying he was directly involved in it. I don't know. It could have been coming from people higher than him saying that this show needs to end. My point is that Michael Oling has come out since then. He's been named the president of Cartoon Network. He's come out and said that they think that mature series have a place on Cartoon Network. He said that they're trying to aim Cartoon Network towards psychographics and not demographics, with more mature shows coming while also having the more lighthearted series on the channel as well. So I wonder, this is a show that has a pretty big fan base, right? When the show was canceled, there were hashtags trending on Twitter saying to bring the show back and to finish it, give it the final 4 books that it deserves. I wonder if Michael Oling sees that, goes to Owen Dennis and says, hey, do you want to finish this show on Adult Swim? I keep mentioning Adult Swim, but they, like I said before, have now My Adventures with Superman. They have Unicorn Wars Eternal. I'm speculating that maybe Ben 10 will move to Adult Swim. Why not put Infinity Train there as well? They're kind of creating this teenage block on Adult Swim, or a young adults block on Adult Swim, and I feel like Infinity Train, a show that already has a dedicated fan base, would fit there perfectly. So I do wonder if they decide, hey, let's take a second look at Infinity Train, let's put it on Adult Swim, and let's have it be part of this new block that we're creating, or these new Adult Swim original series that are all coming to the channel. John Johnson Jr. asks, hey DC Network, remember when Cartoon Network had comedy and action blocks every Friday night? Do you think they might do that again in the near future? So first and foremost, yes, I remember those blocks. I absolutely love them. You mentioned You Are Here. That's a block I remember when I was younger. Every single Friday night, I was looking forward to that block. I look forward to watching shows like Ben 10 Alien Force, Sym-Bionic Titan, Star Wars The Clone Wars. They were all a part of that block. The Secret Saturdays even. Even I remember at one point they were doing on Thursday nights, I believe it was called Har Har Thursday or something like that, where new shows like Chowder, Adventure Time, they were premiering new episodes on these Thursday nights. I remember they eventually moved it to Monday nights, and then I think at one point it was Tuesday nights. But my point is, whenever Cartoon Network had these blocks, that they had all these new shows premiering, all these shows airing episodes, it was something to look forward to. I remember as a kid, I couldn't wait for Friday nights to watch the newest episodes of Cartoon Network. I know back in the mid-2000s or early 2000s, they had Friday night with, I believe it was Tara and Tommy, the two hosts of the Friday nights block, and that's where they aired Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, shows like that. They aired new episodes of Ed and Eddie as well. Just having a block where you know that every single week you can tune into that block to watch your favorite shows air new episodes, I feel like that's just something that really was great for the network, and it basically guaranteed you viewers, because everyone who was watching Cartoon Network and liked these shows, they would tune into the Friday night block or the Thursday block or whatever block they had airing new episodes, because they knew that every single week at that time they were going to be airing new episodes of their favorite Cartoon Network series. So do I think they'll ever come back? I think in a way they're kind of doing that right now with Adult Swim. Obviously I'm speculating on this, but I really feel like, and I keep going back to Adult Swim in these shows, but My Adventures with Superman and Unicorn Wars Eternal moving to Adult Swim, I truly feel like they're trying to create a young adults or teenage block on Adult Swim. Of course it's pure speculation, but I think they're trying to do that there. And do I think they should do this on Cartoon Network as well? Absolutely, because like I said, having blocks where new episodes premiere of your favorite shows, or even a block where you're going to rerun old shows, you know that there's guaranteed viewership from the fans of those series. By having a block and advertising it, you might create new fans of these shows and bring new viewers to the channel. Just Epic asks, do you think story-driven cartoons are taking the spotlight again? I don't necessarily think they're taking the spotlight again, but I definitely think they're making a resurgence. There's something happening there. If you guys remember, back in the 2000s and even the early 2010s, there was a lot of story-driven cartoons happening with serious, more darker elements in them, with these long story-driven narratives that were developing throughout the entire run of those series. If we look at the 2010s, they kind of all disappeared. After Ben 10 Omniverse ended, we really didn't see any shows on Cartoon Network that had these longer form stories within them outside of Steven Universe and to an extent Adventure Time and regular show. I think that now we're seeing a resurgence in them, and I keep mentioning these series, but like we have Unicorn Wars Eternal coming, we have My Adventures with Superman coming, we have Batman Cape Crusader coming. These are all shows that you're describing here. They are story-driven cartoons with deeper and darker tones to them. It's not going to be that these shows are the only shows in the spotlight. I feel like what we're going to into an era right now where there's going to be a happy medium of, yes, you have your shows that are more comedy-oriented, they're lightheart, they don't have these dark and serious tones in them, they only have, 11-minute episodes or 22-minute episodes that episode 1 doesn't connect to 2, 3, and 4. But then at the same time, I think that we're going to have a lot of series going forward where, yes, they have darker and serious tones to them. There is a plot developing from episodes 1, 2, and 3 to 4, 5, and 6 where you can't pick up at episode 4 without watching 1, 2, and 3 because then you won't know what's going on. I think that, yeah, those shows are making a resurgence. I don't want to say they're in the spotlight again because we really haven't seen any of those series premiere yet, especially on Cartoon Network, but I do think it's a situation to keep an eye on that, yeah, we're getting a resurgence of these story-driven cartoons, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they do well, because in my opinion, I think that the story-driven cartoons with these action elements and more serious tones to them, I feel like those are the best animated shows, at least in my mind, that I've seen. Like, think of a show like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. It's the only series of Scooby-Doo to have this story-driven narrative that was developing through 2 seasons, and in my opinion, it was the best Scooby-Doo. So I really do hope that we see these shows like Batman Cape Crusader, My Adventures with Superman, Unicorn Wars Eternal, these shows that are having these story-driven narratives. I hope they do really well, so we see more shows like that in the future. Artie Raccoon asks, my question is, when regular show ended in 2017, why did they pull it off of the air so quickly and never bothered to air reruns again for years? And in all honesty, I don't even think it necessarily has to do with the show ending, because if we think of that time, Cartoon Network for years wasn't really airing reruns of regular show, nor were they of Adventure Time or Steven Universe. Those series were only on the channel when they were airing new episodes, and in all honesty, even when they were on the channel airing new episodes, they didn't really advertise them at all. So I feel like it's more so an issue of, at that time, Christina Miller was really prioritizing shows like Teen Titans Go and even The Amazing World of Gumball, these shows that were more lighthearted and didn't have these darker and serious tones to them, because you could argue that Steven Universe, it was more story driven, it had some filler in it, but it had darker and serious tones to it. Same thing to an extent with Adventure Time and regular show. And while all three of those series were successful, they were kind of on the back burner for Cartoon Network when Teen Titans Go was in the spotlight, and later they added in shows like The Amazing World of Gumball to air reruns. And even I remember Clarence had reruns at one point during the summer. They had like Clarence Summer, I forgot what they called it, was like Summer Takeover or something. They had these reruns of Clarence episodes. It's just that Cartoon Network in the mid to late 2010s was really prioritizing more lighthearted series and having them air reruns on the channel, as opposed to regular show, which you could argue is a bit more mature in its own right. Fire Types Forever asks, what made you want to become a YouTuber? So this is actually a little bit of an interesting story. Essentially, one summer before school was starting up again, I was just bored. I was like, a lot of my friends went back to school. I didn't really have much going on. So I decided to just, start a YouTube channel called DC Gamer. If you guys want to check it out, DC Gamer is still up there. I don't upload to it anymore, but I started talking about Nintendo games and stuff like that. Then later on, I decided, why not start a Cartoon Network channel too? And then all of a sudden, this channel, DC Network, really picked up. It really started getting a lot of viewers and it was building pretty quickly. So I was like, okay, this seems like it is something that's actually growing. Let me stick with it. And the funny thing as well is I never really wanted to become a YouTuber. It was never something I was striving to do. It's just one summer I was bored and all of a sudden it started going well. And I was like, okay, maybe I should stick with this. And here we are now. Gohan888 asks, my question is, when do you think JG Quintel's next project will come out? And in all honesty, is JG Quintel even at Cartoon Network anymore? Because that's a question that I don't think we have the answer to, because he was there obviously for regular show. He was there working on Close Enough in partnership with Studio T. But after that ended, is he still there? Is he working on anything at Cartoon Network? And we really don't know. So my question is JG Quintel even there anymore? Is he still at Cartoon Network? And if any of you have any information on that, or if you know one way or another, maybe he tweeted out something that I just don't know of, leave a comment in the comment section below letting me know, because I'm genuinely curious. If he still is at Cartoon Network, I would love to see him work on a new series, yes, but I would also love to see him make like an epilogue series or a movie for regular show taking place 25 years later, because obviously there was that last scene where they did show the characters 25 years in the future, and they had even that comic book series by Kaboom where they had a mini series of comics taking place 25 years in the future, and I'd love to see that on TV, whether it be a movie or maybe like a 10 to 20 episode mini series. That's something that I'd really love to see them do. And if JG Quintel's still at Cartoon Network, hey, maybe that's what he's working on. Sean asks, what are your thoughts on the official announcement of Toy Story 5? And he mentions a video that I made a few years ago on what the story of the movie should be about. And it's funny because I was actually considering making a video about the announcement of Toy Story 5, but then other things were going on, and at this point maybe I'll make one, so better late than never, I guess. But I like it. I'm really happy that they've announced Toy Story 5. I love Toy Story. I watched Lightyear, actually. I don't think I made a video or talked about it on this channel. Lightyear I didn't care for that much, but the Toy Story films are probably my favorite animated films. It's definitely my favorite animated film franchise, and so I'm really happy to see that they're making Toy Story 5. Maybe I'll talk about this in a full video because I do have a lot to say about it, but the one thing I find interesting is I don't understand necessarily why there's a lot of criticism about this online. People are saying, oh no, there shouldn't be a Toy Story 5, there should have never been a Toy Story 4, and I'm like, Toy Story is such a big property that I feel like there's always going to be another Toy Story coming. They don't make movies every year. It's like, what, every like 5 to 8 years we get a new Toy Story movie at this point. Toy Story 4 came out in 19, you presume this one's probably coming out in 2025 or 2026, so it's not like we're getting them all that often. So I feel like every 5 to 8 years getting a Toy Story movie is perfectly fine. It's not like they're milking the cash cow trying to get as much out of it as they can. In a way you could say they are, because they're still making content when the story did end, but I'm enjoying the movies, so I still think they're all really good. And yeah, maybe I'll make a full video on this because I have a lot to say about it. Fire Types Forever asks, in your opinion, how do you think Cartoon Network could have handled their reboots better, like with Teen Titans Go or the Powerpuff Girls reboot? And I'll add the Ben 10 reboot into here as well. I really feel like the way you handle a reboot better is by keeping it true to the original or not making it. I really feel like if you're making a reboot, and this is what I feel like a lot of people who work on reboots where they go wrong, more often than not, when a new reboot is coming out, I know with the Ben 10 reboot this wasn't the case, but when a reboot's coming out, usually the same people who worked on the original are not working on the reboot. When that's the case, the new people who are coming in are like, oh, we like this property, we know these characters, but we have a different take on how this story should go, or we have a different take on what this show should be. And I feel like that's where a lot of reboots go wrong, is that they're just changing what the show was and then it's not the same show anymore. So I feel like part of it with Teen Titans Go, Powerpuff Girls, and with the Ben 10 reboot, actually let's separate Teen Titans Go from this and talk about that first. I think that's just a case of that show was just never meant to be what the original was. It was meant to be something new and fresh and different with Teen Titans, and I talked about this in my How the Teen Titans Go took over the 2010s video. It just got bigger than it was ever meant to be. It was supposed to just be this little spin-off on Teen Titans Go that was supposed to be attracting younger audiences, and then it became the face of Cartoon Network when it was never meant to be. In the case of the Powerpuff Girls and with the Ben 10 reboot, I really feel like that was a case of Christina Miller saw the success of Teen Titans Go and was like, let's do that with other popular properties. Let's do that with Ben 10. Let's do that with Powerpuff Girls. And those two series did not do well at all. Powerpuff Girls was just slowly, just silently canceled off of Cartoon Network. The Ben 10 reboot, I will say, it was successful in the beginning, but then it really fell off towards like season 3 and season 4. Merchandise was not selling as well, and obviously it has ended at this point, and there is no second iteration or a sequel to the reboot, and there, in my opinion, is not going to be one. If they were making a Ben 10 reboot sequel, we would have heard about it by now, and the fact that they have it means that something new is coming. Whether that new thing's in the original continuity or something brand new entirely, we don't know, but I really feel like at the time Cartoon Network was just prioritizing making comedy-oriented content, and unfortunately the Powerpuff Girls and Ben 10, they both fell into that. Those reboots, I don't think they're good series. Teen Titans Go, I feel like it's a different story, because like I said, I feel like that's just a spin-off that was meant to be for younger audiences, and then when it became so popular, Christina Miller's like, that's what Cartoon Network has to be. We have to have more comedy-oriented content. And then they took other franchises that were popular like Ben 10 and the Powerpuff Girls and said, let's make these the new Teen Titans Go, and obviously it didn't work out well for those two series. Midnight in San Diego asks, hi DC Network, I remember watching Adult Swim back in the early to mid 2000s when they aired anime almost every night. With the massive spike of interest in anime, do you think that Cartoon Network should increase the presence of anime on their channel lineup? And absolutely, I remember exactly what you were talking about. Back in the early to mid 2000s, they had a lot of anime on the channel. They had Zoids, which I'm sure that's a series that probably a lot of people watching this video have never heard of, but I made a video a while back on that if you want to check that out. But they had Zoids, they had Naruto. I remember Naruto aired a lot on the channel. I believe, I don't know if this was a part of the Maguzi block or not, but I believe Naruto a lot of days had these marathons in the afternoon, because I remember watching Naruto for hours on end just during the week randomly. How could I not mention Dragon Ball Z? That had a huge presence on the channel as well. But to answer your question, yeah, I think they should. I didn't even mention Pokemon, which I don't know how I could mention anime and not mention Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Beyblade and all those series, but Cartoon Network had a lot of anime on the channel. And to answer your question, yes, they should bring that back. And I feel like it's twofold. Number one, I do feel like, you mentioned this, there's been a spike in anime. I feel like anime has become much more mainstream and is much more popular now stateside than it was like 10-15 years ago. So I feel like, number one, every night they should have some sort of Adult Swim block with anime on it. If you want to make a Toonami block every night, do it, go for it. Maybe make it 2-3 hours long instead of having it be this one block every Saturday night that's just all night long. Maybe you could keep that Saturday night block for people who enjoy that, but maybe have it be on for Adult Swim like 2-3 hours a night, every night have some anime presence. The other thing as well, where I feel like Cartoon Network is really missing out, back in the mid 2010s, they lost Pokemon, they lost Yu-Gi-Oh!, they lost Beyblade. There's no anime shows that air on Cartoon Network anymore. The last one was really Bakugan, which that was lost to Netflix. So I really feel like Cartoon Network was kind of the king of those types of series back in the 2000s, and they've lost them now, and I feel like they really need to get them back. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's, the current Yu-Gi-Oh!, that's on Disney XD. Pokemon is now on Netflix. It went from Cartoon Network to Disney to Netflix. Beyblade is on Disney XD, so Disney XD has kind of become what Cartoon Network used to be in the 2000s, and I feel like they need to kind of throw money at these companies to get them to put their animes on Cartoon Network. And the one thing is, I feel like a lot of the reason why Cartoon Network lost these shows is because they stopped airing reruns of these shows in favor of airing Teen Titans Go and The Amazing World of Gumball and shows like that. But hey, I mean, there's a new Pokemon anime coming out called Pokemon Horizons. Maybe that ends up landing on Cartoon Network. I hope so, because it feels so weird to me, and and I've said this before, it feels so weird saying or even thinking that Pokemon is on Netflix. It just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't fit together. When it was on Disney XD, that was one thing, but being on Netflix just seems completely off to me, and hopefully Cartoon Network gets some of these shows back. Pabby Pab asks, do you think that the Warner Brothers Discovery merger will get any better? And that's really a loaded question, because I don't want to say this, but I feel like it can't get any worse. Like, can it really get worse than it is right now? We're kind of getting into the bright spot of it, hopefully, or the bright future that they're promising, because the transition period seems to be over, and I talked about this recently in the Max video. It seems like the transition period is over, but at the same time, it's like they announce some good stuff and then they do something bad again. So will it get better? I'd hope so. I think it has to get better, because otherwise, what's the alternative for Warner Brothers Discovery? Bankruptcy, or maybe being sold again? So I'd hope it gets better. It seems like they're starting to get their ducks in order. They're starting to try to figure things out, and hopefully, I know there's the merger coming next month and about a month from now. Hopefully things there that are announced are cool. Hopefully there's some cool shows coming, and hopefully they actually deliver on these shows and the merger ends up being a good thing, because right now this company is in much worse situation than it was before it was bought by Discovery. Kingslayer asks, what's your thoughts on the MCU right now? I don't like it. I honestly don't like what the MCU is doing. It really seems like, to me, the thing with Marvel that's a problem is oversaturation. They're making way too much content way too quickly. I talked about this a while with my friend Agni Gatling. We talked about how Marvel was becoming oversaturated, because I remember at the point at which Infinity Train was coming out, they're releasing 3 movies a year, and I honestly was getting tired of Marvel. I was like, I'll stick it out till the end of Endgame and all that, because I want to see how this story ends that they've been building for 10 years. But after that, I was really like, whatever Spider-Man's come out, I'll watch, but everything else I'm not going to watch. Then I got pulled back into it with Spider-Man when No Way Home came out. I got pulled back in. My friend wanted to go see Eternals. We saw it together. Then we went to see Shang-Chi. So I was getting pulled back into the MCU slowly. I caught up on all the Disney Plus shows and all that. And I just feel like at this point, a couple of things are happening. Number one, it's just way too oversaturated. We're getting 3 movies a year. We got 4 movies, I believe, in 2021. Then they're releasing all of these Disney Plus shows. And the thing is that they're really going for quantity over quality. A lot of these shows, a lot of these movies, they're not great. Like, some of them I have liked, but others I haven't liked. I don't think there's been one movie that they've made, maybe outside of No Way Home, that has been wildly successful from a critical perspective. It's like some people like it, some people don't like it. When I feel like in the past, for most Marvel movies, outside of a couple during phase 1 through 3, they were widely popular. Everyone liked them. But nowadays, it's like they release something like She-Hulk, which in my opinion, She-Hulk is hot garbage. It is a terrible series. Miss Marvel, I also thought was pretty bad as well. But then you have stuff like Hawkeye. I loved Hawkeye. I thought that was fantastic. Same thing for WandaVision. I thought Moon Knight was pretty good. I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier was okay. It's just a really mixed bag at this point, and I really feel like, I truly believe this, and this might be rather controversial. I feel like once all of this King the Conqueror stuff ends in phase 6, which I believe is coming out in 2026, I think once that all ends, they'll try one more arc to save Marvel, one more saga to try to save Marvel, and I feel like after that it's getting rebooted, because at this point it's like you've used a lot of the popular characters. They're not going to come back unless if they do some time travel nonsense or some multiverse nonsense. I feel like they're going to do the King stuff. Once that all ends, they'll try one more saga in the Marvel MCU, then we're going to get a reboot, because there's no way that Marvel can continue going on like this and we're going to have 100+ movies in the MCU. I just don't see that happening, because this happens all the time with superheroes, even in comics. There are multiple iterations of Batman, multiple different universes or reboots or whatever you want to call it of different Batmans. Same thing goes for Superman. Every character you can think of, they have multiple different comics with multiple different iterations of those characters. So I feel like once the MCU gets through this King and the Conqueror stuff, they'll do one more saga, then it's all going to get rebooted. Tahim asks, he has 2 questions. He says, number 1, do you want Steven Universe to come back? And absolutely not. I thought that Steven Universe ended at the perfect time. I did not want to see an epilogue series in Steven Universe Future. I did not enjoy Steven Universe Future. I feel like Steven Universe, it had its spotlight. The show's over. Keep it over. If you want to bring it back in like 5 to 10 years from now as a sort of a revival series for like a limited time, go for it. If you want to do a movie in 5 to 10 years, go for it. But for right now, let the show rest. I feel the same way about Adventure Time. Adventure Time, when it ended, I thought they shouldn't have made Distant Lands. They shouldn't be making Fiona and Cake. They should have let the series just rest for 5 to 10 years. Then if you want to bring it back, bring it back. But I feel like every every show is meant to end at some point, and if you keep milking the series and making more and more content, you're just going to tarnish the name of that franchise. And as for your second question, do you like the idea of Gumball getting a new show after the movie, or would I rather it just end with the movie and nothing else? I don't have a problem with them continuing Gumball depending on how the movie ends. Like, if it makes sense, then I'm fine with it. If it just seems like they're kind of just milking the cash cow that is Gumball, I won't be as happy about it. But we really don't know what the series is. I really need to see, like, what is this new series about for me to formulate a proper opinion on it. I feel like it's going to be built on what happens in the movie, but we don't know what happens in the movie, so we really have no idea what this show is about. So I don't really feel happy or sad about it because I don't know what it is. And our last question for today comes from Bob Forever, who asked 4 questions, but I want to touch on your first and third because they tie together for me. Did you watch Rick and Morty seasons 5 and 6, and did you check out Primal season 2? So the answer is no for both of these, and for different reasons, but they all tie together in a way. So Rick and Morty, I watched seasons 1 through 3, I liked them. Season 4 came out, I did not like it. Then Primal season 1, I watched, I enjoyed it, but I got disinterested in the series because it took so long for seasons 1's second half to come out, and then when season 2 came out, I just kind of lost interest in the show. And in a way, that's kind of what happened with Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty season 3 was phenomenal. That's what got me into the series. I went back and watched 1 and 2. Then it took them 2 years for season 4 to come out. I was still interested in the show. I watched it, but then the quality went down and I didn't think it was good anymore. So I was done with the series and I have no interest in checking out season 5 or 6 or whatever they're making next. Then with Primal, it's a similar situation because the show disappeared for a year after only airing 5 episodes to then disappear for another year plus for season 2. And at the point at which the second set of 5 episodes for season 1 came out, I didn't enjoy them as much because I kind of just lost interest in the show. I've said this before on this channel. I don't care what property you are, no matter how popular you are. If you take a long hiatus period where there's no episodes of your series, your show is going to suffer for that and you're going to lose viewers. Look at The Mandalorian right now, season 3. The exact same thing is happening. The Mandalorian was a massive hit for seasons 1 and season 2. It disappeared for 2 years or year and a half, whatever it is. Now we have season 3. Arguably the quality of the show has gone down, but if you look at it from a ratings perspective, less people are watching. Why? Because number 1, the quality went down, and number 2, it took you 2 years to release it. Again, I don't care what property you are. If you take that long of hiatus period, you are going to lose viewers and you are not going to be the same series that you were before that long hiatus period, just because number 1, viewers are leaving, and it seems more often than not when they take that long to create something to make it, quality seems to dip. I haven't seen Primal season 2, so I can't speak on that, but the quality seems to dip just because something's going wrong when it's taking you that long to produce. It shouldn't take you 2 years to produce 1 season of a show, especially in the case of Rick and Morty and The Mandalorian, where it's 8 episodes for a Mandalorian and 10 episodes for Rick and Morty. It should not take you that long to produce them. Anyways, that's all for Ask DC Network number 15. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all for your fantastic questions. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this coming in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.